Okay, we're connecting. So you can start the pre-show.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the BA Zone's live pre-show. We're just getting all our ducks in a row for tonight's show. Kathleen is in the background there tapping away, making sure everything goes well. And how is everybody tonight? Did you get your cup of tea? Are you ready for the show? I'll take a little sip. We are due for yet another nor'easter here on the East Coast. Fantastic. My back needed one more snowstorm just to test it. Actually, I think we're getting another one over the weekend as well, too. They're keeping an eye on it. But it's all good. This time of year, it's good to cozy inside the house and get some paperwork done, get those taxes going, which I have to do yet, and I'm not too thrilled about. But as long as you're making money, I guess you got to pay taxes. Better than the alternative, I suppose. And just check out here. Kathleen, what are we up on exactly? Is it Facebook, Periscope, or all of the above?
We should be up on Periscope and on YouTube. Facebook should come in like a couple minutes.
Okay.
We seem to have better luck when I do that one last. I don't know why.
Tonight's show is a continuation of the Psychology of Business Analysis. It's a series that we're doing this month, and this one is actually going to be on resistance to change. So we'll get that started in just 5 minutes.
So where did you see that they said there's more snow this weekend? Is that really true?
Yes, they're looking at something on, I think for Sunday. Oh, they're keeping an eye on it. So it's just, actually, Alabama got slammed. We were talking to coworkers down there, and they sent a picture actually, and the house was like sheared in half from a tornado. There's like a staircase up to like nothing. They got hit really bad down there. Those winds, I think, are coming this way. Hopefully they won't be as damaging. So we're supposed to get something over tonight, and I feel like a weather person, a weather lady now. I could say Al Roker, but I could name a few of them over here, but nobody would probably know them out there. So isn't it funny? It's like you always have to call the kids, because we were talking to our daughter. She's like, "What are you talking about? There's going to be bad weather tomorrow." I'm like, does nobody watch the weather anymore before they go? It's like we wake up in the morning, it's like, oh yeah, we got some bad weather going here. Nobody prepares.
That's not good.
Oh. Hey, everybody out there, anybody out there? Feel free to drop us comments while we're on the air. We love to hear from everybody. Oh, look my face is split in half. Oh, not happy with the snowy weather here in Maryland.
No, it's broken again. Shoot.
Amy.
Okay, this
Wait,
is not
I'll do
good.
this. Look, it's like I'm peeking. I'm playing peekaboo. Hello.
Oh,
Amy, what are you doing in Maryland?
That's where
or does Amy live in Maryland?
Okay, we are in really bad shape right now. Let's see if I can undo what I've done. I have no clue. Okay, that's not good either, because that's the wrong message. Okay, so I guess we are not going to be able to use VMix Social tonight because it's evidently drunk. Fine.
Ooh, hungover from St. Patrick's Day.
I guess, but now I'm also concerned that the side-by-side is going to be broken. And it is. All right,
well, if you hear the voice from the beyond, maybe when you talk, I'll just move my mouth.
We don't want to scare people.
I do an Edgar Bergen thing here.
Let's see.
Where is your hand?
Why did this decide to go wonky on me when it worked fine last time? Oh, that's annoying.
You did move something in your office, right? So
I just moved the desk. That shouldn't have done anything.
You never know.
No, especially in my world.
You just screwed up all the feng shui in the room, so
that could possibly be
it. It's like all the snow we're getting. It's like, somebody they should just apologize to Mother Nature, because she's really annoyed.
Yeah, well,
dropping
that's
all
for
this
sure.
snow.
Okay, so yes, it looks like.
So is that a live message from Amy
Oh,
now?
yeah, now that's a live message.
Okay.
So let's see
Hopefully you
if I
don't have the
can.
wind down there in Maryland that they had in Alabama. A little scary. Okay, we're about to go live in 1 minute.
Oh.
The great and powerful Oz on the other end. I'm just letting you know. 1 minute and we're live.
Yeah, no pressure.
No
Okay,
pressure.
let's see if this is working. Let's roll the dice.
There you
Okay,
go.
yes.
You're back.
See, I can break it and bring it back. Now, how do I get that off? Oh, here, I get that off with that. Yes, okay. Does that bring it back?
It's all
It does
fun
bring
and
it
games
back.
here. And that's
Yeah,
why
you
they
know,
call it a pre-show, folks.
if technology didn't fight back, I probably wouldn't have a job, right? Because then everybody would be able to do it. It would be easy.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to just quickly verify that we are up on. Yes, okay, so Facebook is also up, so we're good there.
Okay, and it is 9 o'clock, and we are ready to go just under the wire. Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the BA Zones live show. I'm Marianne Morrison, and...
Oh, I'm
Hello.
Kathleen Sinnott, dancing behind here.
And we are the co-founders of the BA Zone. This evening, we're going to continue with the psychology of business analysis, and we're going to be talking about change and, more importantly, resistance to change. And the title is Change is a Good Thing, right? We say that, right?
Which is very funny considering what just happened to us when something changed and we didn't want it to.
Yeah. Exactly. So we do have a slide if you want to bring that one up, Kathleen, or if you're working on bringing the slides up.
Yeah, I need like 2 seconds. Why is... Oh, really? Remember when the keyboard stopped working a second ago?
Okay.
Shoot.
I'll cover while she's doing that. So we say change is a good thing, right? You have executives and they say, you know what, we're going to automate this process and we're going to make it easier. We're going to replace that obsolete system and remove all those workarounds that everybody's always complaining about, and everybody's happy. Yay! Or are they? Even if your project solves everyone's issues, all the user issues, and it's the greatest thing since sliced toast, don't be surprised if you run into resistance to the change. And you will run into resistance. And it's very, very common in any type of project. And some people are equipped to deal with it, and some people are not equipped to deal with change. They don't have the coping skills, or maybe they don't have the support system that we try to provide as business analysts. And a resistance, there it is. There's a nice thing. Change is inevitable. Reaction to change is individual and often unpredictable. And one of those unpredictable things is resistance to change. It's very common. And we're going to talk about that tonight. It causes anxiety. It's usually due to, a fear of loss or fear of the unknown. And there's a whole bunch of causes that can cause it. And it is going to happen, and you need to plan for it because in all likelihood, you're going to be the one who has to manage it as a BA, and you're going to have to support a variety of folks. So tonight, we're going to walk you through some of the causes of the resistance of change, some of the signs and symptoms, and how you can manage that. So we'll go right to the next slide, causes of resistance to change. So as I said, fear of the unknown is the most common cause of resistance to change, but there are other potential causes that you should be aware of. One of them might be the culture of the organization. Matter of fact, most of the organizations that Kathleen and I have been involved with, change was the norm. And that's okay if you can handle change, but there are often a lot of people when there's a lot of change going on, it causes disruptions, and these constant disruptions, people kind of go, enough already, and they just can't handle any more of that. It could be that this is a first-time major change. Maybe it's an organization that's been just sort of going along very easily, and all of a sudden they're going to start to introduce new technology to automate their processes. That can be a major stressor for a lot of people. Also within the culture, you can have, a perceived or an actual lack of support or commitment from managers or executives. This can be also a cause to resist change. And there also might be low level or no trust whatsoever in management, and that makes it even more difficult. Culturally, there's some things you can do. Basically, manage your own culture and use a culture. That's what we typically try to do. But that is a tougher one when the culture of the organization is the overarching issue causing resistance. You may run into history issues. For example, how have changes been handled in the past by the organization? Were they done well? Were they not done so great? Is this new change that you have creators of the old system? And they're going to be staunch supporters of it, even if it stinks, because they're the ones who created it. So this is sort of a fear for them. It's an intimidation that, you're taking away my baby. People create things and they get upset when they go away. So there's some history there that can cause resistance. There could be, as part of the history, the selection process. If we're talking about sort of an application that's purchased as opposed to a homegrown one, maybe the selection of the solution that they selected is not the one that's going to be put into place. That can cause issues. There could be some employees that are highly invested, in the current process or product. And that could go as far as we don't necessarily say kickbacks, but there could be certain benefits. They could be legal or not. That someone is getting from vendors or suppliers. They may have a special relationship with them that may end because they were the one who initiated the original product or process. So you have all of these historical issues that can cause a resistance, people to resist change in the organization. A major one is communication. And we say this again and again because it is really important. You could have a terrific job, but if you have lousy communication, it's going to cause innumerable issues. There are lack of awareness issues with people. Why is this change being made? People may not even understand fully why it's being made, and they get their back up against the wall. There could be a lack of clarity around the project. When is the timeline? When is it going to be implemented? Who's going to be affected and how are they going to be affected? There could be interpretation of the information that's being given. There are senders of communication and receivers, right? So we send a communication, but based on someone else's perception and all the things they got going in their life, they may not be hearing what you're sending exactly. They're interpreting it in a different way. And also information that you're putting out there could differ from what they're hearing from their coworkers in the grapevine, or even customers or vendors or anyone associated with your organization. So all of these communication issues or, lack of communication is going to cause a resistance. You're going to have people not being fully on board. Also, the size and the impact of the project. How big is this change? Is it an incremental change or is it a big bang change? What is the difference between what they're currently doing or how they're currently doing and what the future state is going to be? And how much disruption is going to be anticipated? And all of these things are going to cause anxieties, and people are going to start to, get really upset and resistant. As I said before, perception to the change. A lot of people will sit there and say, is this really, it's unnecessary, this change. Why are we doing this in their mind? They believe maybe the change will make things worse than what it currently is. It will not succeed. And that could go back to the culture of no one supporting it. But they believe for whatever reason in their mind that the project may not succeed. They feel that the change in the job itself will result in a loss to them. And it could be job security, money, their status or their position. Maybe a position is being eliminated if we're automating a process, or maybe a loss of a coworker or team that they're currently on that they will no longer be on because we're automating some type of process. There could also be a perception that they lack the confidence themselves in their ability to move on to this new technology or this process. People do worry about that, and then they worry, well, am I going to be able to do this or manage this new system or work on it? And if I'm not, is it going to affect my job performance? Maybe I'm a terrific performer, and now all of a sudden I'm faced with brand new technology that I might not be a star performer anymore. And that can cause anxiety. Or maybe they just like the current routine. You know, we're creatures of habit. Everything's copacetic. They don't want to change. And so that can cause resistance. Excuse me. Other factors. We're getting a comment from Amy. Yep, they are perfectly happy with the way they've always done it. Absolutely. And we are creatures of habit, and a lot of folks do not like that change whatsoever. There could be other factors as well, personal factors that are going on that we're not even aware of. These could be factors in their home life, their personal relationships, could be related to their age, their health, their finances, etc. And or maybe these new changes don't align with their own value system. And that can happen if we change the way, it is a major shift in a company to change the way they're doing something to affect someone's value system. But, again, it's all about perceptions. All of these potential causes will impact your ability to approach and manage the change. So do you have anything to add to those causes, Kathleen? Or have I just about covered it?
I'm going to expand a little bit. You kind of touched on it, but I just want to drive it home in case somebody missed it. Part of it is very often just a fear of change. It's the unknown, or maybe they're afraid that, they're not going to learn it as fast this time or whatever. But fear is really underlying a lot of these different issues. And then the other one that comes up a lot, which I have tripped over a few times inadvertently, was not realizing that some of the people in the room had built the thing that we were changing or replacing. And so there was sort of a element of don't call my baby ugly, which was not our intention. We were brought in to do a project and just didn't realize it. Oops, okay, sorry. So you do want to kind of get the lay of the land if you're new to a group of people to make sure that you're not tripping into that particular one. The other thing, while I've already jumped in and interrupted you, is we forgot to mention up front that if you have anybody that would be interested in this topic, we're hoping that you would share and invite them to this, because the more people that join the conversation, the merrier. We have a lot of fun talking to the folks out there, and if you have any of your own that you would like to throw in, let me know. If you put them in the comments, I can put them up for you, or if you don't want me to show your name or whatever, just put it in and tell me you want to stay hidden, and I'll just share the wealth with everybody else. Okay? Anything else, Mare?
No, you're good. You got your oxygen, you're good.
Yes, well, now that all the pieces are starting to behave.
There you go. Tapping away. As Kathleen was saying, and it's obviously, if you're dealing with, a customer as well, who is also part of this project or this team, that adds a whole other host of the same issues, but on the customer side, you may not know these people, and you have to really assess and how you're going to approach them and try to calm that down. That's a whole, and we've dealt with that, many times with creating products and clients licensing them, and then, tailoring them to their own specifications. So, that can be really tricky at best.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So those are some of the causes, but of course, a part of the first step of understanding this is knowing the signs and symptoms that something is going on. And they usually with complaining. because we do like to vocalize. A lot of people like to vocalize. So you hear a lot of like, why do we have to change? Why can't we keep doing things the way we've always been doing them? So people start to begin by questioning. It's sort of that questioning kind of complaining. And then it quickly lapses into fear, as Kathleen was saying, is this going to make our jobs obsolete? From there, that's fear. And then it goes to mistrust. They have no idea what they're doing. Everybody who's putting this into place, they just don't understand this. They don't know what they're doing. And then it goes quickly to denial. It'll never happen. They're never going to get this thing off the ground. And of course, they're part of it. Everyone's part of that and they don't really realize it. But, it quickly morphs into denial that, yeah, this is never going to happen because they don't have their act together. Sometimes that can go into anger, and we've seen this before, they're putting all of this in place because they want to keep an eye on us. They're going to add more work to us. They're going to make this easier because now they're going to add more work than they ever did before. So you just kind of get that anger or paranoia. They're going to be watching every move we make type of thing. And it's no longer going to be about customers or patients. It's going to be about numbers. Or they begin focusing on every little nitpicky negative thing that they come across, bugs or issues, and they completely ignore any of the benefits of the system. And that sort of in their own mind provides evidence that everything is going downhill quickly. So that complaining, that's sort of a list of complaints. I don't know if you've heard of any other complaints, Kathleen, that you can remember. Those are the ones that came off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, those are the ones I think we see most often. Is that kind of grinding in. Sometimes, too, the other thing that you need to look out for, it may not be happening right in front of you, but it might be happening in the hallway, or outside the meeting rooms. If you're starting to see people running off after the meeting or congregating just before and then stop talking when you walk up, that's usually a sign that something's up. A lot of times it's the little things adding up that you're like, okay, wait, there's something going on here. Or if you happen to catch wind of an email that you were left out of, so that's also often a sign of some sort of like little, let's call it passive aggressive activity going on, where they're trying to react in a way because they're dealing with this resistance issue and they think that they're somehow helping things, I guess, in their own mind, right. But it's not actually turning out that way for everybody else. So that's just another thing to watch out for.
Left off the email is a good one. That's a great one. I forgot about that one. Thank you. And as we know, complaining that will lead to poor morale, or even poor morale if it was already poor to begin with. So, you'll notice, body language, people they're sullen, they're unhappy. And as Kathleen was saying, they're silent when a member of the change team enters the room. There could be increased sick days, increased negative group conversations, as Kathleen was talking about. And, the complaining and the poor morale, eventually, you get this groupthink going, and then all of a sudden we have acting out. And that could go anywhere from not providing required information or resources from folks, avoiding meetings, delaying sign-off or approvals, production slowdowns, or creating workarounds to the new system instead of learning how to use it or asking how to use it or getting help. Already they immediately start creating workarounds. So those are some of the signs and symptoms, as well as the passive aggressive that you may not see or you may only find out about later. And that's what you need to look for. So let's talk about, some of the techniques to manage and reduce this resistance. The first thing we like to do is we like to what I call applaud the past. So in a meeting, we would recognize the previous system and the process and thank everyone involved. Because as Kathleen was saying, it is a huge mistake to trash the old system, because by trashing the old system, you are trashing the employees who may have created it in the room or envisioned it. So, and either way, no matter how great the next system is and how bad the old system was, someone will still say the old one was better. And that's just human nature. And it happens. We see it happen all the time. You know, they could complain about that old one as much as they want, but as soon as they have something new, it's just a resistance to change type of thing. They say, you know what, let's go back to the old one. And that's a big no-no. As far as communication, you want to communicate the future early and often, right? So part of the fear of change, as Kathleen was saying, is the unknown. So you want to be proactive and try to eliminate as many unknowns as possible. So you need to communicate the right information to the right people at the right time. You can't throw it all at them all at once, but you do want to start communicating the change months before even the kickoff. And then you want to continue to do so during and after the implementation. You want, when you're delivering this message, and this sometimes comes from the executives, but it can come from us as well. You want to start you want to give them a story. You want to give them something to believe in, something that is bigger than themselves. We had a company that was involved with case management, healthcare. And the owner was very good at saying, you know, this is bigger than all of us. This is taking care of people, and you want to be part of this process. And it motivated people to a purpose that was greater than themselves, so that they were willing to change their behavior, their individual behavior, to be part of this great solution. So you want to be able to create buy-in with this communication. Give them something to believe in, create a good, it's not a fictional story, it's a nonfiction story, but you want to have a really good story to pull people in, to get them involved. You want to mix the communication methods. So you want to do, formal meetings and informal meetings, one-on-one. Just walk up to someone, and say, how's it going? What do you think of this? And get some feedback. You want to be accessible. The biggest thing with people with resistance to change is they feel they have no one to talk to. So they do go off into groups that are similar to themselves, similar to their personalities. And that's where the rumor mill starts. So you want to kind of be in those groups and communicate with them as often as possible, and have sort of an open door policy, because if there are any problems that are brewing, you want to hear about them first, because if they don't tell you, they're certainly going to tell someone else. You want to provide ongoing and frequent updates as to where the project is, what is going on. You want to potentially give them along the way sneak peeks of the system to get them excited. And you can do, if nothing's built yet, you can do that with screen comps or wireframes. Any information is better than no information at all, to help them with the transition. As far as the updates goes, well, you want to correct any misunderstandings. So if you're hearing anything from the rumor mill before it gets further convoluted, bring it up in a meeting. There's nothing worse than letting that fester, because it'll take your leg off. You let something fester, something's going to fall off. So you definitely want to do that as soon as possible. And if you have no new updates, that's not a problem. Tell them you have no new updates, because if you don't, they're going to fill in the blanks. What's going on? Nobody's telling me what's going on. Is it going to fail? That type of thing. So communication is extremely important. Also being positive and patient with people. Everyone sort of adjusts to change in their own time frame. So you got to be a little patient in the beginning. You want to focus on the positive aspects of the system or the process in all your communications. You can mention some negative things, but really the main focus should be on everything that's positive. When I say positive, there's one thing that a lot of people do that, and I just may be jaded, but you don't want this overemphasized rah-rah type of thing, because a lot of people see it as false optimism. It's a forced type of thing. You want it to be more natural. You don't want people right away having a resistance just because they believe, oh, you're just a rah-rah team for management or whatever. So, you want to do that at just the right type of level. Be optimistic And if you are optimistic, try to motivate other people to be optimistic. Provide a positive experience. So what do I mean by that? Smile, laugh, have fun while you're doing this. It shouldn't be such a drudgery and a chore. So, make it a little entertaining. Do something, because you know what? These relationships that you're building, if or the technology may fail, or you're going to hit many major bumps in the road, maybe not, maybe you're just going to hit a few. But anyway, those relationships can save you from everyone becoming extremely negative. People will rely on the relationships and say, you know what, it's going to be okay because she's got our back or he's got our back. So you want to be able to do that. And again, be patient. Like I said, give them time to absorb the new information and compare what they currently do to what they will be doing, and help them to do that by not throwing the information all at once. Try to break it down into digestible, sections so that it's not overwhelming, and that'll help as well. Also, you want to. You have something to say, Kathleen? Because you just popped up next to me.
It looked like you needed to take a sip, so I thought I'd throw in here for a second.
I can take it. Go ahead, feel free.
Okay.
She pops up. It's like, oh, hello.
It's a good clue, right? One of the special techniques, I call it her superpower, the mayor has, is the ability to take these people who are being resistant and maybe digging their heels in a little bit and working with them to the point where they think the new plan is their idea, which immediately turns them around into supporters. It's something that she does that I have studied for years, and I've gotten a little better at it, but she needs to give master classes on this because it has worked every single time. So I had to throw that in there because it is just an amazing thing. And if it is a skill that you have, it will be something that will definitely make your projects go a lot easier for everybody on your team. And so we all thank you in advance.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Thank you so much for that. That's sweet. Yeah, it's my superpower. I don't know how I got it, but there you go. Everybody's got to have something. Okay. Okay. So, also, as part of communications, and we say this again and again, set expectations. A lot of times project fails or communication fails or there's resistance to change because no expectations have been set with your internal users or your customers. So you want to set expectations from the beginning. So what do I mean by that? You want to let them know what is being changed in as much detail as you can give them, and also what is not changing, and be specific about what is not changing, because that's their little happy, stable place until they get used to this change that's coming. So they hang on to that, like you're hanging on to a little edge of a cliff. That's my safe space, my safe word, so to speak. So you want to make sure that you tell them what is not changing. You want to tell them why the change is needed. And again, be very specific as much as you can be. How will it benefit them as individuals? Because, of course, that's what everybody's looking at themselves. How is this going to benefit me and the company? And if you're doing something fantastic, how it's going to, save the world type of thing. And you also want to, just like what is not changing, you also want to specify the risk of not changing. So what is the risk? I mean, it could be that if we don't change, guess what? The company's not going to be around because we're no longer competitive. How will the change be implemented? Is it going to be, the steps? Is it iterations? Et cetera. All of a sudden, I seem to have lost Kathleen's sound, so I'm not sure if she's there. Oh, there you go.
No,
she must have just muted for a second.
In that case, I'll throw this up. Amy agrees with us.
There you go.
So for those of you who might be just listening, Amy said, oh my God, I do the same thing. I love to give senior attorneys, partners, the impression that it was their idea. See? Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a superpower and it really helps.
Just turn it right around. There you go. Sorry, we didn't get that message up sooner, but they take a little while to get through. So,
yeah, there's a lag between what we're talking about and what people can say. And then when they can comment, there's a lag coming back. So it happens. It's just part of the fun of being live.
Okay, where was I? Okay, so as far as setting expectations, give them a when. When is this going to happen? Even if it's an estimated timeline. Because, a friend of mine said, you can survive anything as long as you know it's going to end at some point. So even if it's a target date, give them a date, something to look forward to. You can always move that date, but you definitely want to give them some type of end date to what they perceive as their suffering. And then again, tell them how success will be measured. Some of these things, again, if someone's not giving these answers at an executive level, you want to fill in the parts because, again, you're the one who's going to be dealing with these users and managing the change that's going to happen. Again, you want to acknowledge that expectations may have to be reset. Let them know that from the beginning. They need to be flexible. Obviously, people are not flexible. Not everyone is flexible. But you're going to have to upfront say, look, these are the expectations we have. They may change, but we don't think they're going to change on a large scale because that would just freak everybody right out. So be transparent as you can. Let them know there's going to be bugs. There's going to be problems. It's not going to be all hunky dory. We're going to come in the next day and everything's going to work just fine because that never happens. But again, you want to give them the sense that everyone is in this together, and we're going to get through it as in a positive as possible. Okay. And also, really important is to let them know from the beginning that we are not going back to the old system or the old process. I have never been in a company. They may sort of flip a switch back for a few days if something's really gone kaflooey with the new software, but I have never seen a company completely not go forward with something. So you really want to let them know that, this is not going to change. This is what's going to happen type of thing. Once you set those expectations, you should then raise the expectations. So what I mean by that is people need to be busy. They need to have things to do to occupy their mind and get their mind out of that fear type of mindset. So typically with a lot of projects, there's a lot of things that need to be done before we implement a new process or a product or an application. So for example, if we're moving from one software system to another, there's always data cleanup or records that have to be updated. So get groups of people focused on that and getting that update and that sort of I don't know in legal term in Amy, I don't know what it would be legal, but focus on maybe looking up some laws and books, or you're better at that than I am, but that type of thing. Get them focused on something that is productive and moving them forward in the chain. It sort of creates a sense of involvement for them and excitement. And it can also prevent the sort of slack off that sort of occurs when people are in this transitory state. They're sort of like, okay, do I really work hard in this because we're going to move to this type of thing? And you don't want that happening. So you want to create these kind of work groups to raise the expectation that, okay, we're going to start moving on this right away. We're not going to wait for the new system to be put into place. Okay. Another thing you can do to manage resistance to change is listen and be supportive. Listening is one of the easiest things we can do, but a lot of people don't take advantage of really focusing in, not doing 15 things at once, not checking your phone, not, looking at paperwork, but really focusing on and listening to what someone is saying. Just listening to someone helps people cope. You become a sounding board for them. And sometimes what I will do is literally, I used to, my office was sort of like, people used to say it looked like a psychiatrist's office because it was very zen-y. It was very calming. And before a meeting where we had to, people were aggravated or whatever, I would just take 3 deep breaths and then just refocus on when they come in. Because if you're calm, people will eventually become calmer. And they need that outlet. So listen closely to their concerns, their fears, and their anxieties. Acknowledge to them. These anxieties may not be real to you, but they are to them. So you want to acknowledge that with active listening and help them explore their feelings. I know it gets into like, do I really have to do this, explore their feelings? But it's not, it's just sort of asking a question and just being kind and listening. Provide some positive feedback if they need it, and some reassurances. That's all they're looking for. And if you're communicating something to them that's important, ask them to just verbalize back to you what they heard, just so that everybody's on the same page. Because again, I could be saying something and that person could be in the midst of some type of crisis and they're hearing something differently. So you want to be able to do that. And, just make a connection with someone and let them know they're not alone. Again, we're all in this type of thing together. Similar to the raise expectations, you want to encourage participation. So empower them by involving them in the problem-solving process, not necessarily the solutions. People love to jump to the solution, like, I think it should do this, 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 and this. But really, they need to be part of the problem solving. What is the problem? Getting down to the problem level. And it gives them an opportunity to address their needs, to get their needs heard, involve them in some type of decision making. So it makes them feel that they have some type of control in a situation where they may have very little. And it sort of develops a sense of ownership. So any way you can get groups involved, give them tasks to involve and make them part of the process. That's great. And again, reinforce, assess and reinforce what a particular person does well, and then provide an outlet for that skill set. So if somebody's really good at research, give them something to research. This may not always be part of some of that. What I'm trying to say is some of these things you may have to discuss with their managers, because we are talking about users here. It may not be the people on your team per se. But again, having conversations to keep everything smooth and working towards a goal, managers usually appreciate that. So if you have to talk to a manager to help, get that person on a particular project, do so, especially if that person is really causing a lot of resistance. You can elicit feedback. Very important to elicit feedback. Kathleen and I do this. You can do this on a one-to-one. We often do it with surveys. And if you're looking for more information, you go to thebazone.com on surveys, and we go over that as well. And you want to find out what do they feel are the negative aspects of the change, and what impact do they think it will have on their jobs or processes. This is particularly important when we're talking about isolation and remote teams. Remote teams, or even global teams, it is really difficult to elicit feedback in team meetings when people are trying, there's a time delay and people are on phones. Surveys really help in that, and calling them directly as well. But there is that sense of isolation with remote teams, so don't forget about those folks. And you're going to have to be prepared for positive and negative feedback that's going to come through. And so don't get all defensive, because it's not about you, it's about them. And again, assess the level of resistance from the individuals and the groups as well. Like Kathleen was saying, all of a sudden people are running off into little groups and discussing. So, people will seek out groups that have similar traits to themselves. So you want to keep an eye on that. You need to have a plan. All of this is about having a plan. You want to be proactive and not reactive. So you want to, as you're going through, take time out, especially when you're first starting a project or a new job. You want to assess individuals individually, right? You want to identify potential resistant risks and have a plan to address those. And don't forget, there are cases, and this is really important. There are people that do have mental illness, so this can make it even more difficult, these type of changes. So we want to have a plan to make sure we're supporting, everyone. But be aware that some folks do have some true mental illnesses, and we have to make sure that they're being supported as well. So finally, the last thing is make sure you provide ample coaching and training. And this can come in the forms of allowing them to test the system. And that'll give you a couple of things. That'll provide super users that are trained that can also, support those folks. So you want to give them enough time to use that system prior to the actual implementation. You want to make sure that if they are testing, that they are testing on a clean, what we call staging environment, and not a development environment where things are changing and broken. And you want it to be as clean as possible. As there's nothing worse than having people sit down and everything is broken. That's not the purpose of that. Your QA team should do that. So just make sure that you're doing that at the right time, giving them testing privileges. And, make sure there's training, a series of training online, in person. And don't forget that you may potentially need to train vendors or suppliers. And in the past, you may also be training customers who are using your software. We've done that. And we've actually embedded teams down, with the client until they're comfortable using it. And definitely provide, if you can, a buddy system. So the buddy is someone they can reach out to for help or support or to cope. And these are typically super users of a system or a process. And you want to make sure that if you're picking those super users, that they also have good communication skills and not just tech savvy, because some folks just are better at communication than other. You don't want to throw someone there who's like, oh yeah, you do it this away, and they're like, what? I didn't even. So you want to make sure they can communicate as well. And so those are sort of 10 techniques that we use to manage and hopefully reduce resistance or try to stop it before it even happens. So is there anything you'd like to add to that, Kathleen?
Well, no, I think that you've covered it pretty well, but I do want to bring up, back when you were talking about, listening and letting people being heard. Again, just to show that these are not just our ideas. Other people agree with us. Amy has found that to be very successful in her situation too. It's a human thing. I mean, people need to feel heard, and the higher somebody's stress level it is, the more important it is that they feel heard. Even if they're telling you something that maybe you've heard 6 times, you need to treat it like it's fresh, because for them it's still obviously a sore point and they need to get it out. So it's a good thing. Even if it's kind of inside your head, maybe you're screaming a little. It happens.
Oh, yes. And people tend to really want to fix things quickly. Like if you're type A personality or AB type personalities, you want to fix things right away. So you're like, we need to do this. No, don't do that. Just be quiet. Just say in your inner voice, keep it down. Don't say anything. Just let them talk. It's a great release valve. So why is all this important? Nothing, and I say nothing, has greater potential to reduce quality, cause failures, or even tank a project faster than resistance to change. You get a whole bunch of people thinking the same way and it's negative, you are going to have a major problem turning that around. So you want to try to prevent that up front. And, change it's a transitional process. It's not a one-time event. And it's unique to each individual. So you need to provide them, just to wrap it all up, you need to provide a holistic approach to identify and manage resistance to change, and provide a support to those individuals who may not have the skill set right now to handle that change. And remind them that, pretty much life is change, right? We're always dealing with or mastering change throughout our life, different transitions from, just going from grammar school to high school, et cetera, and marriage and houses and et cetera. So we're dealing with those type of changes all the time. Some changes are good, some are bad. but they're all learning experiences. So, good luck out there with resistance to change. Just know that it is going to happen and just plan for it and you'll be fine. And that's all I've got this evening.
So we got a question from Periscope, which is not directly tied to the project kind of resistance, but just sort of corporate resistance overall. Money Trender was asking if you had any advice on helping HR to be flexible in their decision-making process. For example, allowing remote work. So I'll jump in first so you can think about this, because this is a very popular topic in my brain. What I have found is helpful very often is, first of all, letting them know that you've done this kind of work before, because right away that takes away a concern that you're just trying to not be in the office, but that you actually, by telling you you've done it before, giving them examples, it helps them to understand that actual work can be done. And in my case, and probably in yours, I find I'm more effective when I am working from home, because you don't get pulled into meetings and there's not the distractions of people chatting in the office and, football pools, or I guess this time of year, the March Madness pools. I just find that I can get into the flow and stay in the flow longer when I'm working remote. But not every corporate environment has tried this. A lot of them have been burned on it. So the first thing you need to do is address their fears. The other thing that I found helpful sometimes is, if they seem receptive to the idea but uncertain, maybe showing them some articles from other companies, big companies especially, that have done it successfully. If they're just not interested in it, that's not going to help. But if you start to get the feeling like they're kind of open to it, but they need some more data, I found that has been very helpful. The other thing is, if you can get references from people, if you have done it before successfully, if you can get references from those people, that will also help the people that are on the fence. Like I said, if they're just dead set against it, you're not going to win. But if you've got somebody that's a little bit open-minded about it, providing them with some information, it can be very helpful. Do you have anything for that, Mare?
Yeah, actually, I'm a firm believer of working from home if you're capable, if you can do it. And almost all of my people worked remotely. They'd come into the office occasionally. I found that with HR, another way to position it is the risk of not enabling people to work from home. There is a lot of good talent out there, and that talent is now saying, "Look, I need what I need. I need to be able to work from home because I have." I'm more comfortable. I don't have to travel and almost get killed. Around here, the traffic is horrendous. So, if you're going to the office, it's, 30 minutes to an hour there, 30 minutes an hour back when you could be working. Right. So you want to maybe position the risk of not doing so. You're having talent walk out the door, because talent can literally say, this is what I'm willing to do. So you might want to do that. And actually, next week's show is all about persuasion. So, check in next Tuesday where we'll be talking about that. But you may want to just, flip that and say, look, you're losing out. Again, convincing HR, you may have to first convince your boss to put that type of pressure, unless you are a manager. And then in that case, you got to get all the other managers on board and try to, to say, look, we're losing tons of great talent here because we're not flexible enough, and it's going to kill the company, basically.
And there is
got to be flexible.
Data. Yeah, you do. You, especially in the new economy and the new generation coming in. And the nice thing is that there's a lot of data out there to support the concept of remote work. So again, if you've got something that's sort of on the fence, that can be good. The other thing that you can try, if there's a company that you're talking to right now that you're really interested in working for, but they're not open to it, one of the things that you can try is just start working for them, on a regular basis. And then once they start to see what a valuable employee you are, then maybe you can revisit the concept. Now, there's no guarantee that it's going to pay off, but, it might be worth the gamble to you if it's a really good company and it feels like a really good match for your skill set. Sometimes that works too, because again, sometimes this gets back to the fear thing. They're afraid that, if they can't see you, you're not working, which is ridiculous, but, that's the way some people think. One other thing that I have found that has been helpful too sometimes is to offer a little bit of a discount on your rate, especially if you're a contractor. So what I do generally is I have a price for being on site and a price for working remote. And I try to make it, enough of a discount that they see more benefit to it without it, damaging my income to the point that I'm, can't afford to eat and the dog and I are fighting over the dog food. So, there's different rows that you can try and different combinations. Oh, okay. So yeah, sorry, haven't had enough coffee today. Clearly, Money Trender said thank you. They followed, and so if your manager's on board, which is awesome, that's a huge step in the right direction because then you've got an advocate, and so maybe you can even start doing something just sort of on the QT as a test for the company. So, if your manager's on board with it and, he's willing to let you do it a little bit, as long as you don't broadcast it throughout the company and cause jealousy and problems, that may be the first step in you helping that company become more open to the idea. So that's great. Congratulations on that.
Right. I mean, as long as you're hitting your targets and you're hitting, you're getting your work done, there is absolutely no reason why people can't work from home. And actually, if you... in your case, you have a manager behind you. If you don't have a manager behind you, you can position that like, look, this is what I'm going to do. And let's do a test run, say 1 day a week, start with 1 day a week. If it doesn't make a difference, then they start to feel more comfortable with, oh, okay, this is okay. A lot of companies are moving more to remote because it is financially sound to do so. They don't have to pay for a brick and mortar building for people to sit in when people can be sitting in their own homes. So it's an advantage, both ways. So good luck with that.
Yeah, so
thanks for the comment.
Amy contributed too. So she said she likes to have them work in the office first, learn the ropes, and that way everybody gets to learn about them too, which is true. I mean, very often that's the situation. They're going to want some face time first. And then once they're sure that you know how everything works and know what their expectations are and everything, then sometimes they'll be willing to work. And it sounds like that might be where you're at. With your manager already being okay with the idea, which is a lovely thing. Not that I speak from experience, but I do. It didn't come up yet. Amy also said that when they start working from home, I ask for an extra level of communication at first. And that is key. So, if you're going to work remote, you do need to make sure that you are going to be very, very available. You need to respond quickly to emails, whether they're using, Slack or Skype or whatever messaging tool they're using. You want to make sure that you keep it open and that you're responding quickly. Because, again, that just reinforces the positive reaction that they should get from the fact that you're generating such good work on such a timely basis and all of that. So these are all things that you can do once, if you can get your manager to do a test drive to help show that, yes, this absolutely can work. I mean, I worked with, it's so funny, I worked for a while for a big company, and they insisted I had to be on site, and we went back and forth because it was quite a long commute for me, but I was like, all right, fine, because I really wanted to work for them. The project was really interesting. I get on site and I find out that I'm the only one on my project at that location. Everybody else is scattered across the globe. Parts of my brain started to explode at that moment, but I kept it under control, and I waited a couple of weeks, and then I pointed out to the fact that I was having to not only be on site, but I was having to work extra hours, which is costing them money because I was contractor, so I was getting paid by the hour and actually time and a half for overtime, which was awesome. Because I was dealing with people in UK and Ireland and China, and so I suggested to them that it might be better if I split my day, work from home, and that way they would not be getting hit with so much overtime because I could do, 4 hours in the morning with the UK and Ireland, and I could do 4 hours later in the day with China. And once they saw the value in that, money-wise, they jumped on board. So again, it's just all about getting in there, setting the expectations, and showing what a great employee you are, and then very often you can work it out for yourself.
Right. I agree with Amy too. You definitely need to communicate a lot initially. Yeah. Not to put a damper on this, but we did have an employee who, you could never get in touch with them. They were obviously not there, and we found out he was actually working another job. So we had to let him go. So there's always those that are trying to work the system.
There's always somebody out there that's screwing it up for those of us who are going to do not only a good job, but maybe a better job working remote.
Exactly.
That's why you have to do so much better than them. All right. So I'm just going to do a quick sweep here. I think that we have... thanks, Amy. Amy said, great job in negotiating. Yes, it works out well sometimes. Well, again, this kind of loops back into the whole psychology thing. anytime that you're dealing with, another person, another team, another company, as long as they see benefit in it for them, you're halfway there. And that's just life. That's people.
That's it. We be people. We be people.
We do be people. So, before we completely wrap this up here, let me bring this up. I do want to remind you that we are basically everywhere. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, we are in all of the places. And we do the live show every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. And we always hope that you will come and be able to join us live, because as you can see, it's so much more fun when we have the opportunity to interact with you folks live. But if you can't join us live, please don't be hung up on it. You can always watch the replay, and everywhere except, unfortunately, Periscope, you can go ahead and comment, and we always go back and double check, on a regular basis, even if you're catching a show from weeks ago. If you have a comment or question, go ahead and post it there, and we will respond to you. Anything else I forgot to say? Oh, you can get on our mailing list. No, you have said it all. If you want to stay up to date on all of the things that we're doing. And by the way, we've got some cool stuff coming. We're just trying to get the last pieces in place, but we're bursting at the seams, I want to tell you, but we can't yet. But if you join the mailing list, we're really good. We don't spam. We won't sell your name. This is just another way for us to reach out and keep you up to date. So if you want to find out early and first about what's coming, that's a good place to go. And as a benefit, we will give you, I think it's the survey workbook. You'll get as a freebie for signing up for the mailing list. Okay, I think that's it now.
Okay, she's done. Take a breath.
There we go.
All right, everyone.
Because we didn't do it in the beginning like we were supposed to, so I wanted to make sure I didn't forget. That's
okay. We did go a little longer tonight, but we had a blast, and thanks everybody for joining us. And again, join us next Tuesday, same time. And have a terrific night. Everybody happy. Yes. Don't be resistant to change.
And hopefully we won't get snowed in too much, but just enough so I can work from home tomorrow.
There you go. Working the deal. Okay, everybody. That's a wrap from us. Thank you again. Have a great night.